We're getting ready. Welcome to YouTube land. Welcome to the Republican Men's Club, August edition. We have some great speakers today, but first I want to talk, this is Bill Conrad, I want to talk about our sponsors and our program. Folks, we have sponsors and we match at the Republican Men's Club for youth education and conservative principles. I want to talk about SatView, it's our communication system out and about for the cable companies. We thank them for their support. Sterling Carpet, which is a small, good, solid Republican who started a business last year and advertised with us, and now he's up to $2,000 a month, does a great job, so I recommend you use him. Of course, my lovely wife, Karen Conrad, who just went from an independent brokerage into working with Chase. He doesn't want to work so hard. And of course, New Media Gold, that great new media company supporting all of Northern Nevada. Without further ado, let's get right to the Republican Men's Club. Ray Rocha, take it away, introduce our guests.
Here we are, we're live and ready to go. The first speaker we have is Greg Bailor. Some of you know him, some of you don't. I'm going to have Phyllis Westrup come up and introduce Greg, a little background. And by the way, Phyllis is the newly appointed Washoe Caucus, Presidential Caucus Chairman. She was crazy enough to accept it.
Greg Bailor has returned to the Nevada Republican Party to manage the 2016 Presidential Caucus. Greg has extensive experience working with federal, state, and local elected officials, party leadership, and candidates. Bailor most recently worked as a state director for the Republican National Committee, serving as the RNC's senior representative with the state and local Republican parties, as well as state and local campaign teams in Nevada and Alaska. Prior to his work for the National Committee, Greg served as the campaign director for Congressman Mark Amodei in 2012 and Nevada Republican Party state field director between the 2010 and 2012 election cycle, overseeing party building efforts, data management, and strategic targeting. Greg is a former member of the Washoe County Executive Committee, National Committee Man of the Young Republicans, and Nevada team leader for Speaker Newt Gingrich's 527 organization, American Solutions. Personally, I met Greg working in the Washoe County Republican office. He's a great young man, very knowledgeable, and I'm glad to introduce him this morning.
Can everybody hear me? This microphone's kind of, I might just hold it. First of all, Ray, thank you for inviting me to speak today. Ray's asked me to attend this lunch, I think, for about the past 2 years. And right when I was getting ready to actually show up for the first time, he called me and I said, Ray, I won't be there. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. Last cycle, unexpectedly, I had to make a trip up to the last frontier and was there for about 9 months assisting the party with the U.S. Senate race. And what a wonderful experience, but it is great to be back in Reno, hometown. I thought coming back to Nevada would shorten a little bit of my travel. That's not proven to be true. Past few weeks here, I've gone through one transmission. I've done the drive from Reno to Vegas 4 times in the past month and been up in Elko a handful of times as well. And I just want to give everybody a safety tip here as a Nevada driver. If you see a 2003 blue Blazer, it's swerving on the road, that's Mark Amodei. He has one good eye and he's a chronic texter while driver. So watch out for the congressman out there. We're working with him on that. I think we got him Bluetooth this year. So, you know, Nevada has a great opportunity this year. We're one of the 4 carve-out states, both Republican and Democrat, to hold their delegate selection process early. We join Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina in that process. And just 6 months from now, Nevadans who belong to both the Democrat and Republican Party will have the opportunity to change the world by selecting their presidential nominee. And you know, what a great chance for Nevada to get down close with their candidates, to vet their candidates. You know, we have, as already been mentioned, Mark Rubio will be doing another event here shortly. And, you know, Barack Obama said, and we're all very familiar with this quote, that he would fundamentally transform America. fundamentally transform this country. 16 more years, 16 straight years with a Democrat in the White House, it's going to solidify that transformation. Nevada is working against that operation right now. The caucus to convention process is currently underway. I invite everybody here to be a part of that, to work with Phyllis's team, volunteer the time that will be needed to be a site leader, a precinct chair, attend a training, recruit your friends and neighbors to join her in this effort. Nevada's Republican Party will be holding their caucus on Tuesday, February 23rd. It's the same month that 69 members of Congress caucused to elect George Washington as the nation's first president in 1789. Congress selected the party's nominees until 1832, when the national convention process was introduced. The first state to hold presidential primary was Oregon in 1910. Progressives at the time did this to break up the power of state delegates in the nominating process. In 2012, just 14 states held a caucus. Nevada has the honor to partake in the caucus process, allowing, again, our dedicated activists to be at the grassroots level, vetting the best candidates for the Republican nomination. Now, the Democrats are already hard at work. Hillary Clinton is speaking today at the AFL-CIO convention in Las Vegas. Her campaign has 22 employees on the ground already. Some people left the White House to join her candidacy in Nevada. They've already launched efforts to put interns and what they call fellows on the ground. From what we've tracked, there could be upwards of 150 fellows currently working across the Silver State to get her the nomination. But the Democrat Party, they don't want to talk about their anointed candidate, their nominee. The Constitution of the United States says you cannot take money from foreign governments without the consent of the Congress. The founders knew the danger of corrupting our system with outside influences from foreign countries. Clinton provided access in return for donations to her foundation as sitting Secretary of State. She needs to explain the difference between a classified email on a secret private server, what she thinks is a personal email on a secret private server, and what Clinton Foundation emails look like on a secret private server. She needs to explain how the three types of emails do not present a threat to our national security, and how the three types of emails do not present a clear violation of her constitutional duties. Richard Nixon deleted 18 minutes of recordings and eventually resigned. If Clinton erased 30,000 emails with a clear intent of covering up this scandal before she ran for president of the United States. If she's not willing to answer these questions to the American people and the members of her own party, she should not run for president of the United States. Thank you. So, talking about some of the excitement we're already seeing. How many people were in Douglas County over the weekend for Adam Laxalt's Basque Fry? What a fantastic event that was. Again, 4 candidates spoke. Unfortunately, Ambassador John Bolton did not make it up on the stage. But that kind of activity and that kind of enthusiasm is what Nevada has seen for the first time. In 2008, the caucus process was new. Harry Reid lobbied the DNC to change this process and make Nevada an early state. He did that in preparation of his own re-election in 2010. And in one day, in January of that year, 30,000 new Democrats joined the party, and Republicans have trailed in registration ever since. The caucus is the best tool we have to excite the base and organize the political party to win in November of 2016. Right now, the Nevada Republican Party is working to capture this excitement and energize the grassroots. We're working with the county central committees, the Republican National Committee, and we're launching the earliest and most sophisticated field program in the history of the state. We're refocusing on the basic principles that are found at the heart of any campaign: fundraising, registering voters, identifying our voters, turning out our voters, and training our grassroots leaders with newly created programs like the Republican Leadership Initiative. I want to take a quick second and introduce somebody that I had the opportunity to meet for the first time today, yet we did work together in Alaska. Liz Arnold in the back of the room. Not new to Nevada, but new to the Sparks community. Liz worked with Governor Parnell up in Alaska and worked out of the Juneau headquarters. and she's now back in Nevada here. And this morning after breakfast, I asked her to help us take the lead on recruitment for the Republican Leadership Initiative. This is going to be a grassroots effort to train Republican and conservative activists around the country. It's going to be a 6-week program, and we're looking to kick that off here in the next few weeks. And if you're interested in signing up, we'll get the information out to you. But if you see Liz, welcome her to the area, and great activists there, and somebody that cares about this country. With this, as we get through our trainings and as we're building this field effort out, by the end of this August, the State Central Committee will be meeting in Winnemucca to finalize our rules for the delegate selection process and the rules of the caucus. And after that, it's time to really get to work and assist Phyllis. Phyllis, I first met you, I believe, in 2010 when you were running Sharon Engel's office. And as party secretary, we did have the opportunity to work together. One of the hardest working people in the state is leading the effort here in Washoe County, and we're in good hands. Thank you. Now, to throw out the somewhat prepared remarks, I really want to open this up to take questions. Again, we don't have our rules defined till the end of August, but this is Nevada's opportunity. A lot of people here have been to the caucuses in the past. Folks here have volunteered for our candidates and worked in the Central Committee offices. I want to hear any questions you have, not limited to the caucus, but open to anything.
A lot of the people that
Microphone.
Hey, if you could come up here to ask questions, please. Hey, right here. Yeah. Come up if you want to ask a question. Introduce yourself. Thank you. Is it on?
I don't know if it's on. There we go. A lot of the people that we know, including ourselves, are gone for most of January and all of February. And so we've never been able to vote in the caucus in Nevada. We've lived here for 15 years. Is there any process that would allow for some sort of a proxy ballot or something, notarized or otherwise, that we could send in or do something with? Because I know a lot of people that are snowbirds. We're gone. It's cold in northern Nevada. We leave.
Very good question, and that's an issue in other parts of the state as well. Unfortunately, the way the Nevada revised statutes read, NRS 293 says that political parties will have a meeting of the precincts in even number election years. Now, with that, in a presidential year, you can also have a presidential preference poll to help select the delegates to the national convention. It really leaves it open to the political party to establish the rules of how we operate. Now, to try and accommodate voters who will not be able to attend that meeting on February 23rd, one thing that the Nevada Republican Party did in 2012 and will probably approve again in the rules in 2016 is a military absentee ballot, making that available to anyone serving overseas or outside of the country. But unfortunately, there's not a process for the average registered Republican. Now, there was an effort in the Nevada legislature taken on by grassroots activists to change NRS 293 from a precinct meeting to an actual primary organized by the Nevada Secretary of State. That bill did not get a full vote before the legislature adjourned. I would encourage you to bring these concerns up with our local elected officials and get their input on that process. But
good afternoon, Greg. The caucus as it's scheduled is a Tuesday this year. In the past, it's been on a Saturday where we had meetings in the morning and then voting during those meetings. How is this Tuesday event going to change the caucus here in Washoe County?
Is that on? Yeah. A little bit of background on how Tuesday was selected. The Republican National Committee, following the 2012 cycle, and I'll actually take a step back too. The Republican National Committee is organized much like your county and state central committees. There's 168 voting members elected from the states who serve at what you could call the National Central Committee. The 168 got together, and in their official rules of the party, they designate the four carve-out states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. The members from the 4 early states got together at the RNC and determined the February schedule and which states would go in which order. As we know, Iowa and New Hampshire are famously the first two. South Carolina was picked, and then Nevada took the last Tuesday in February. We are 1 week before Super Tuesday, and we are 2 days before the last presidential primary debate for the Republican candidates. We are looking right now at a couple different draft versions of the rules. One would allow for counties to establish an early voting option that day. We would still need to figure out the logistics on how ballots are counted and secured for the later precinct meetings. But each county right now will have the opportunity to set the start time of their caucus. It must be between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m. under the current rules, and with a hope that all caucuses would end by 9 p.m. Again, this is a meeting of the political party, and the meeting will have a start time. So if folks show up 6:30, 7 o'clock, and that meeting started at 5 and it's ended, they've missed their opportunity to participate that day. After the rules are finalized, we will be working with each county on securing our site locations and building out the uniform schedule of when people are expected to attend their meeting county by county, and that'll all be based on which precinct you're registered to vote in.
I feel as though the caucus is very unfair to so many people. When you only allow a small window of time to vote, what about the people that work in the hospitals, retail, our police officers, our firefighters, the people that serve us are not allowed to vote? Is there anything we can do so that everyone can have a voice?
Again, it goes back to what we're allowed to do under the state law. The state law says we must have this event as a political party. It gives us the option of actually doing the presidential straw poll. The best way to include everybody is to move forward off of this and work with the elected leaders to change the state law. We're limited, it's a volunteer organization. The party itself has to fund the entire effort. And to talk about some of the scope of this, over 17 counties, we have 2,000 precincts. The Republican Party and the Democrat Party will be holding 2,000 meetings that day, tallying votes, reporting the votes back to the press and the campaigns, and then be responsible for all the other work that goes into being a delegate nominated to your county convention, your state convention, and the national convention. This is a process that will go over multiple months once we get out of February. And again, it's state law. We must do this. If we do not do this, we're in violation. We would love to include everybody we can. The best we can do is get ahead on what date, what time, where the location is, educate voters across the state of that information, and give them the ability to maybe schedule with their work, that they're not going to be coming in at 5 or 7 p.m., but maybe at 9 p.m. if they're in a swing shift, or they ask for that evening off. And that's something that every activist needs to be aware of, to educate your friends, your family, and your neighbors, and people who have never participated in the effort. My father has never missed an election. He's never caucused. Will he? I'm not sure. Hopefully, because the son is somewhat involved this year, I can drag him out to it. But there are a lot of voters that aren't engaged. And again, this is an opportunity for the party to grow the excitement and educate folks on how this works. When 30,000 new Democrats can show up to make this happen, we should be able to find 30 or 40,000 Republicans to do the same. It's not an easy step. It's not an easy process. But if we're going to win in November of 2016, if we're going to secure the White House for a Republican nominee and continue and hold Republican majorities in the U.S. Senate, the Congress, and here in the state of Nevada, we need all hands on deck. We can't have anybody sitting at home.
Greg, a question. In 2008 and 2012, a lot of people thought the caucuses were a fiasco. Turnout was 10% in 2008 and fell to 7% in 2012. The winner of the presidential preference, overwhelming winner both times, was Romney, and yet the outcome was that I think he got 5 of 28 delegate votes in 2012. What's going to be different this time? And a follow-up question. Harry Reid takes great pride in the fact that he killed the presidential preference vote in Nevada, the bill that was in the legislature. If we had a presidential preference vote, we would probably, a primary, we would probably have 5 to 7 times as many Republicans participating than do in a caucus. Didn't we sort of drop the ball as Republicans in this state by not insisting that we get a presidential preference primary?
Two very good questions. I'm gonna take the second part of that question first. With Harry Reid being the champion really of the caucus process in Nevada, it came down this past session to 1 vote. And Harvey Mumford, Democrat out of Clark County, was willing to pass this along through the process of getting the bill to the floor. It was amended multiple times where the Democrats still had the opportunity to hold a caucus. The political parties really were able to decide through a primary or a caucus. And Harvey Mumford was willing to take that vote all the way until his phone rang and it was Harry Reid on the other line. You know, it's no secret that the Democrat Party in the state is a well-funded machine through Harry Reid. But what you see too from the Democrats in this state is they don't have a lot of depth in their elected officials and their bench. You know, they've continued to struggle to field candidates for congressional office, for federal office, for local office. And when they can keep us struggling on our side, that's a win for them. So things we're going to be trying to do different this cycle. We're going to expand our locations in each county. We want, in some cases, to double the amount of locations that a person can attend. We're also working to increase our access through social media and new technologies. In 4 years, we look at technology. Look at what you can do with your cell phone now that you couldn't do 4 years ago, as an example. The reporting will be smoother. We're right now already looking to expand our technologies there. We're discussing this with some of the largest software companies in the world. They're already helping Iowa, and we're reaching out to have that same process here in Nevada. But the real base of this is, as we've learned in 08, as we've learned in 2012, we have so many things that we weren't doing. We're going to be working in many ways on a campaign. We're setting vote goals in every county to increase our turnout and our participation. We're working with all the county central committees right now to increase our data collection, so we have fresh email lists for our volunteers and fresh cell phone numbers and ways to reach out and grow our clubs, grow our women's federation, grow our men's clubs. In Washoe County alone, in a matter of a week in 2012, through an early registration system, we collected 19,000 new email addresses. I would say today at the Washoe County Republican Party, our email address list is much smaller. It's about continuing these cycles and building the tools where in 2020, we have something that's in place, standing rules of the party. It's a procedure that everyone's familiar with and understands, and we're not reinventing the wheel. We've really reinvented the wheel every time we've gone through this structure, and we're working now to make sure that that is not something we do moving forward. Now, if the Democrats continue to build like they have, 30,000 new Democrats this year for Hillary Clinton, I don't know if that excitement's there. Bernie Sanders, does he draw extra people to the caucus process? I'm not sure about that either, but with 17 different campaigns on the Republican side, the campaigns that are currently in this state working every day, I can guarantee you they're having people commit to caucus, they're registering new voters, they're growing their footprint through this campaign, and it's the party's job to take that energy and work with it after the nomination process. It's going to be very different. We're already working to collect budgetary information from each of our counties to make sure that there's enough funds raised where no county is left holding the bill like they have in the past. Because that absolutely damages us. When you come out of an election and your largest county in the state is $60,000 in debt because we just went through the volunteer caucus operation and they had to pay school districts and people, insurance, had to pay for insurance, had to pay for janitorial. Those are things that the state party is going to be taking on this year. And all I can say is, I'd love to sit down and continue a conversation, hear any ideas that anybody has, suggestions for improvement. We have time. We have 6 months to get this right. and it's going to take the entire state and help from everybody to get there.
I have one question. There's a special meeting up in Winnemucca for those of us that are on the State Central Committee, but people in general can go even though they can't vote. Is that correct? And give their opinions to people that are going to be voting.
Yep. The current rules are posted online at the Nevada Republican Party website, nevadagop.org. All of the Central Committee meetings are open meetings to the public and guests. If you want to carpool to Winnemucca, I encourage it. It's not that bad of a drive. But this is the grassroots level of the rules that will be submitted to the Republican National Committee, and all states must submit those rules by October 1st on what Nevada will do on February 23rd, how that day will operate. This is your last chance to get that input in. And again, work with Phyllis and Ray and others that are members of the central committees to communicate your ideas, and we'll do everything we can to accommodate that.
We have time for one more question.
Rick, what is the coordination between the national office, the state office, and the counties as far as knowing in advance when the candidates want to show up in our area and how we can help to show places?
Sure. In most capacities, the national party is in a somewhat of a hands-off position with the campaigns. It's the national party's job to hold the nominating convention and just to make sure there's no bias or anything that's going to be looking like folks are taking sides or giving someone an unfair advantage. There's two people at the RNC who talk to the campaigns, and that's Chairman Priebus and the National Political Director, Chris Carr. My position at the Nevada Republican Party allows me to interact with our local campaigns or our local presidential campaigns and their staff. So especially when they have events coming out, we're communicating that across channels right now. We are early in this process, though. It's only been a few weeks since I officially moved over. So we will be working with folks like Phyllis in each county to communicate when we know a candidate visit will be occurring. And then in return, the county party can get that information out to their clubs and organizations that are within their boundaries. And with that too, we're making sure there's a chain of communication. So Don, if you'd like somebody to come out to the Jewish Coalition, there's a point of contact for you to make that request as well.
Thank you, Greg. You did a great job. He'll be available. Excuse me, I have a hoarse throat. But he'll be available to answer questions during the week in his card. But I'm sure Phyllis would appreciate any volunteers to help her. Phyllis Westrup. Our next speaker is Dustin Stockton. You might know his father, Roger Stockton. Dustin is the National Community Outreach Liaison for Breitbart News. I think most of you are familiar with Breitbart News, and he also does work with the Gun Owners of America. Isn't that correct? With that, I'll introduce to you Dustin Stockton.
Says it's on. There we go. Hi, I'm Dustin Stockton. Like Ray said, thank you very much for having me. But as he said, you guys are probably more familiar with my pop, Roger Stockton. He's very active in the local political scene. He's always hustling. And I'm really lucky to come from great parents. My mom is also here. I work for a number of large national conservative organizations, but I was born and raised right here in Northern Nevada. I'm going to give you a brief history of how I got into politics and then transition into some of the things that are happening that I think you should be aware of. I was working at Western Nevada Supply, the plumbing supply warehouse right here on Rock, managing their graveyard shift when the housing market collapsed. And it sent a tailspin through this community and into my life personally. I got really angry. I wanted to know what the heck happened, right? How could we have failed so badly that our markets would collapse and it would create this domino chain effect that would wreak so much havoc in so many lives. What I found was that our government had actually made those practices that caused the collapse legal over the course of time through lobbying and through the purchase of politicians. Bankers and banks and unscrupulous people were able to change the rules so that not only could they do these things that used to be outlawed, but that they were required to do them. A great example that has been brought to my eyes, I worked on this congressional race in Michigan against a guy who was running in the Republican primary. He ended up winning. And he made his money during the housing crisis by lobbying the Michigan legislature to change the number of days that somebody had to wait before they could evict a non-paying tenant from 180 days to just 30 days. Now let's look at how that works in practice. Let's say you're working a regular job, let's say you're making decent money, $15, $20 an hour, and that something happens outside of your control and you lose your job. Well, if you don't pay within 30 days, and that's a short window to go find new work, that's a short window even to start receiving, unemployment benefits or another way to keep your head above water. Well, because of greed, they were able to change the laws to just 30 days, which means if you didn't pay, if something happened that upset your life, you got booted out. Well, I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't know what to do. I wasn't very politically active. I ended up getting hooked up with the crazy Tea Party folks. I did a couple big national bus tours. I got to speak in front of huge rallies. I was integral in bringing Sarah Palin to town a couple of times. And really, I've been on the adventure of a lifetime. I can't tell you how amazing it is and how much it's restored my faith in humanity by cruising around and meeting the regular people of this country who are the backbone and who are the strength and who aren't being properly represented by the policies and the laws that are coming out of every level of government, not just state, not just federal, every level of government, there's big problems. Where it led me was realizing one thing really stood out to me in this journey. I was a part of a big rally here in Nevada. You guys some of you probably were there, and most of you probably have heard of it. It was the Showdown in Searchlight. I was with Tea Party Express at the time, and we put this huge rally together out in the middle of Searchlight, right? Out in the middle of the nowhere. It was one of the most amazing things. I'm driving up in the bus to speak at the rally, and cars were lined up for miles. And we were expecting, maybe a few thousand people, and there were tens of thousands of people there. And, bearing the wind and the dust, and there to talk about and rally for America. I got to know the speakers at that rally very well because I spent 3 weeks on a bus with them, going city to city, giving talks. When I went home that night, when we went to the hotel, and I turned on the news, I learned a very, very hard political lesson. Because did they talk to the organizers, the people who spent the money putting the rally together? Did they speak to the people that we asked them to speak to? Well, when we were there, the media interviewed the people we were asked them to, but did they make it on the news? Nah. You know who made it on the news that night when I turned on the broadcast? A couple of tinfoil hat-wearing Alex Jones fools, right? Talking about all kinds of craziness. That wasn't the message. It wasn't why we spent all that money to bring people together. We were very, very serious about talking about economic issues, things like the housing market collapse and banking regulation. It's not sexy stuff, but it was important stuff. Did that make it on the news? No, and it was a pattern that I started to see over and over again. My girlfriend, Jennifer, she's a fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, a major foreign policy think tank. What we hear in private meetings about what's happening in foreign policy, do we see that reflected on the news coverage that we're getting? Nope. And so I realized that the first thing we had to do to make the foundational changes back to representative democracy or republic or whatever you want to call it is that we have to figure out a way to get our stories told truthfully. And thankfully, we're at a time in this country where we are going through some very significant technology changes. One of my favorite sayings, and a lot of you have probably heard this, but you carry around in your pocket on your cell phone more technology than we had when we went to the moon. More computing power. We have the ability to reach people in ways that we never had before, to keep up with people. I was one of those guys who was really terrible at keeping up with people. I would meet people, I'd really like them, I'd want to stay in touch with them, and then, we'd never call each other. Social media has changed all of that. And so now we have the ability to tell those stories, to tell the stories of the things that really happen and to counter those false media narratives. And it's why I'm so honored to be able to work for an organization like Breitbart. Breitbart I'll give you guys a brief history in case you don't know. It's a huge website. We get close to 3 million unique page views a day. Millions of people coming to the site. We have a staff of over 60 people who are set out to report the news in the way that they see to report the news. And we're unapologetically conservative. We make no bones about being a conservative site that represents conservative principles, first and foremost. And we upset the establishment a lot of times. But if you go to Breitbart, you will get news that you don't get anywhere else before it gets to anywhere else. Now, some of these stories will gain traction and spread, but the first thing we have to do is figure out a way so that we can tell people who aren't as involved as we are. When I listened to the questions Greg got, I was really impressed. You guys really know your stuff. We need to share that knowledge with other people so that we can reach that critical mass where we have enough numbers to really overthrow the cronyism and the corruption. Over and over again, what I've seen in races, Senate races, House races, presidential races, is that the candidates are overwhelmingly controlled by donors. Not by people, but by donors, people who can fund their campaigns. And while it makes sense that people who donate money get extra influence, it becomes a problem when there is when the goals of the people or what will impact the people is different from what the donors need. Greg, to go back to the example of changing how long you have to wait before you can evict a tenant for non-payment. So really, that's kind of where it's at, which is new media is growing, people who tell the truth are growing, but we're still behind. And all you have to do is watch MSNBC or CNN or CBS or NBC to see how dramatically the narrative is different and how people who think they're informed because they're watching the news. They were taught that if you want to be informed, you watch the news. You watch that they're really being misled and how much misinformation they're taking in. Now I get to do something else that's really cool. About a year and a half ago, it was in February, it was 2/23/2013, so about 2 years ago now. We put together a thing called the Day of Resistance. And it was in response to policies put forward in the legislature to ban guns. Now, I told you guys I'm a Tea Partier. I try not to over-highlight that because we've been so marginalized that it doesn't mean what it meant when I started with the Tea Party. When I started with the Tea Party, it was all about, actually doing economic stuff and changing some policies. Well, the radicals and the crazies got all the playtime, and eventually more and more radicals started showing up to the rally. So it's hard for me to identify that way. But we put together this thing called the Day of Resistance because the Second Amendment and our constitutional Bill of Rights is still one of the most powerful documents that's ever been written. It's right there with the Magna Carta. It's changed things, but it's in danger. We already accept numerous infringements on our Second Amendment rights, numerous infringements. So I put this series of rallies nationally. We had 130 rallies on a single day, over 150,000 total people in attendance. And we were able to, it's one of the few things we've done under Obama that we can really take pride in, which is he has said on numerous occasions, most recently on the BBC, that his biggest frustration is his inability to enact more serious gun control. I actually take it's my contention and the contention of Gun Owners of America, another organization that I'm lucky enough to work with, that not only do we not need more gun control, we actually need to look at what the Second Amendment says. Shall not be infringed does not leave a ton of room for a lot of the laws that we've already allowed for, especially in states like New Jersey and New York. There are three big policies on gun legislation that we should be able to pass through a Republican Congress now. The first one, on July 16th, some crazy Muslim idiot walked into a military recruitment center and opened fire. Our Marines, people we've spent millions of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars training so that they are the experts, they're the best among us. They weren't able to fire back because we have a stupid policy that they can't be armed when they're on base domestically, when they're at a recruitment installation. Now, actually, Dean Heller, he's all right. Our senator from Nevada, he actually tried to change this law before the event happened, before the shooting in Chattanooga. He wanted to add an amendment that would allow base commanders the ability to decide for themselves whether or not some of the recruitment centers would be armed, and to take down the stupid gun-free zones, which only highlights to our enemy who would exploit it that this is a soft target to be taken advantage of. And it was blocked by John McCain. John McCain blocked that amendment from going forward. So one of the first things I'm doing with Gun Owners of America, one of the things we're working on right now, is to change that policy, because it's absolutely asinine to think that with all the threats that we face and our military face, that they're less able to defend themselves when they're at home amongst us than they are overseas is just ridiculous policy. So that's something that we should change right now. And with Gun Owners of America, we've got a coalition of senators bringing that legislation forward. We're looking forward to having a lot of the presidential candidates speak about it and advancing that issue. The next thing that we're working on is what it takes to strip veterans of their gun rights. If you're a veteran, you've gone through a lot of stuff recently. You've probably seen a lot of things, and it's probably a good idea. We have a veteran suicide epidemic in this country. We need to address that. One of the reasons when I talk to veterans groups all over the country that they don't go to get the mental health care that they need is because they're worried about losing their gun rights. They're worried about the VA stripping them of their ability to carry firearms forevermore if they go seek that help. Well, we obviously have some people that we don't want to have guns, right? We all know some crazy people that we don't want to have guns and that should be weeded out of the process. Most of our veterans do not fall into that category. They're actually the exact people that we want carrying weapons in our community to respond to things that are happening. So the next piece of legislation we're working on, Second Amendment legislation, is simply to force the VA or any government agency to go through the courts if they want to strip somebody of their gun rights. If you're going to be put in a database that denies you the ability to forever own a firearm, you have to go through the courts to get it. Can't just be some bureaucrat signing off on it. It's not acceptable. So it's another policy that not only will expand the freedom of our gun rights, but could also have a serious impact in reducing some of the suicide epidemic that we're seeing in the veteran community. The final piece of legislation that I want to talk about, Second Amendment legislation, is national concealed carry reciprocity. So basically, simple legislation. If you get a concealed carry permit, your Second Amendment rights don't end when you choose to become mobile and move about the country. Shall not be infringed. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if you go through the process and we set the minimum standards of concealed carry, you should be able to carry even when you travel. And that's really the basics of it. So we've got a lot of important Second Amendment legislation happening. I only hit 2 things. I could talk on and on and on about different legislative issues. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys, and I'm looking forward to working with you on the state and federal level to change things. Thank you.
Now, I know he had more to say, but we're going to open it up for some questions. Please come up to the front to ask questions.
What was your name again?
Dustin.
Dustin, as someone who owns properties and rents them out, I stopped listening to you when you talked about the eviction issue. Because just because someone can't pay the rent, and I feel sorry for them, doesn't mean that my carrying expenses, the mortgages on those properties, the property tax, the insurance, the maintenance, everything else that comes into play every month that I have to pay, whether the tenant pays the rent or not, whether the property is leased or not, vacant or otherwise.
Sure.
So I understand what you're saying, but why would you think that someone has a right to live in my property for 180 days free? I've invested my family's money, my sons who are your age and their children's money.
If you think that 30 days is enough time.
That's not the issue.
No, it is the issue.
No, it isn't. I give to charities to help people. That is not the issue. You think someone should be able to live in my property free. And I'm telling you, that's not how it works.
I'm saying that they should have at least 90 days.
Well, I'm saying you're wrong.
To catch up on, well,
good.
And I'm saying
who does the carrying expenses? Me for 90 days.
Okay.
So you want me to be their welfare system for 90 days. Listen, I give a ton of money to charities. I'm sympathetic to people who need help. But business is business when it comes to property.
Listen.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you got to agree we have a spirited discussion.
I'll say this: if you think that 30 days is enough time, you're wrong. No. Okay. Yeah. You're a clown.
Hi, thanks. That was a great talk. At the beginning, you expressed your frustration with the negative impact of big money on political outcomes. It aligns pretty closely with what Donald Trump is saying. I'm just curious how much support you think there is in the Tea Party for Donald Trump.
There's huge support for Donald Trump and the Tea Party and the electorate more broadly. And the reason is a failure of Republicans' ability to deliver on the promises that they've made for a long time. And while I'm not sure that Donald Trump is offering a lot of things that he can deliver on, I know that people are hungry for something different, no matter what that means. So I also think that he's not going anywhere, and every time I've seen him speak, he's improved.
Dustin, I am going to agree with you, and I do not know how much truth there is in the 30 days, but
that was in Michigan, by the way, not Nevada.
I am one of those crazy Muslims too. We'll get to that part, okay? The part is, I lost my home here in Reno, Nevada, right after September 11th, the next year, okay? And I was right, and I got foreclosed on a handwritten accounting. Fair is fair, all right? Just because we're a capitalistic system, we do not lose humanity. Secondly, coming back to this thing about this crazy Muslim, Holmes is definitely not a Muslim, okay? He went, and I went to high school in Aurora.
Sure.
I'm also a US Army veteran. The bottom line is we need to make sure crazy people don't have weapons, okay? And we don't lose the right to bear arms for regular people, so the government just cannot go and take us over.
Absolutely, and if it came across that I was singling out Muslims because I was talking about the military installation, I was talking about that one specific event. Crazy people are crazy people, no matter.
The point with that guy was he had a DUI a couple of days or a month before that. The other psychiatrist, the major in the US Army at Fort Hood, is obviously crazy. As a psychiatrist, you don't go and kill people, you go and treat them, okay? But the bottom line is crazy people are crazy people, but we do not lose, our right to bear arms. And at the same time, I completely agree with you. Our financial system was completely manipulated, and the people who abused it completely, nothing happened to them except they've gotten richer and richer to this day.
Yeah, no, and the government bailed them out instead of bailing the people who got hurt out. I mean, at the end of the day. And I appreciate you talking about the humanity issue on the 30 days. Again, this policy was changed in the middle of a housing crisis by lobbyists for a foreclosure company so that they could foreclose faster on more properties, on more people more quickly. Even though the rules were different, there was no grace period. It's amazing what you can do if you control if you have enough money to lobby. And as to the other point, couldn't agree more. Really well said. I appreciate you coming up.
We have room for one more question. Anybody have a question?
What happened to Breitbart organization? Breitbart died.
I don't think people know that he died young.
Andrew Breitbart was a hero of mine. I was able to speak with him at a number of events, be able to go around with him. He's one of the most vivacious, energetic people I'd ever met. One of the best voices we had on our side, attacking the media narratives. He died very suddenly and unexpectedly at the age of 43 a couple years ago, right before he was to announce some things about Obama. He said he had some big announcements to make the next day, and he didn't make it home that night. He had a massive heart attack. As with any organization, you lose somebody of that vivaciousness, somebody of that energy who's running things. It hurt a lot of people, and the organization floundered a little bit. But when Andrew went down, millions of people stood up and spread his message, and I'm honored to be able to do that. But it's been a difficult transition, losing a leader like that. The site has continued to grow, and as an organization, we're continuing to grow. It's hard without somebody with that kind of vision.
Dustin, thank you for coming, answering questions. Dustin and all of you be available to circulate, even though the meeting officially ends at 1, but we're not done yet. Eugene Hoover is going to say just a few comments about the Latin Chamber event on Wells App. Eugene?
Hi, guys. I just want to readdress that Latin Chamber issue that came up earlier. And I'm going to come over here and talk to my buddy, Andre. Andre, would you be good enough to tell us what those dates were again?
Okay. We're going to have a event coming this September 13 from 11 to 7 o'clock in the evening. We have a booths available, and like I said earlier, it's a good place for the candidates to be there. So we're gonna have lots of people coming by in there, and lots of good entertainment.
Andre, will there be any food served?
Of course, will be tacos and lots more.
Good, I like tacos. Thank you, Andre. And that brings me to Pat. Pat, would you be kind enough to tell everybody how much it is for a booth and how many you have left?
Well, I haven't got an exact count on how many we have left. We have many left. We have booths from $80 for members of our chamber. We also are running a membership campaign. So if you want to buy a membership, you can get a small booth for informational purposes for like $80, $150 for non-members. And we run up to booths for the taco vendors in the 4-digit class. Okay, in between we have several other types of food booths, and everybody's option will be met.
And I guess the last question I have is, can you give us an idea of what type of vendors are already signed on to this, and so that we can get an understanding of what we're going to see when we show up?
Sure. We have John Holman back here who will be representing his company. We have Allstate agents. We have the Walter, can't remember Walter's last name, for the U.S. Immigration Services here, the Citizenship Services. Andre may have a better idea of, I think we got a bank or two coming out to do services at the My company, Voter Education, is co-hosting this. I'll be doing voter registration. How's that? I think that's about all I got.
You did pretty good. Andre, do you want to add anything to that? Give us some other ideas if there's some people that got booths?
Well, the only thing that we would like to see everybody there. And if you have an insurance agencies or anybody that like to be exposed to the people, that's not only to Hispanic community, it's to everybody to emerge in with the both cultures. So we hope to see you guys there.
Thank you, Andre. Well, the last thing I would mention is this is the inaugural event. So this will be the first year that this is run. Thanks, guys.
See what happens when I get a potential politician and a mic, it goes on forever. Anyway, the last two things before we do the drawing. The next men's club meeting is a dinner. Outstanding guest speaker, Adam Laxalt, our new Attorney General. He's doing a great job. Probably end up in the future senator or governor of this state. But we welcome you. It's here at the Atlantis on September 15th. That's a Tuesday, September 15th. Doors open at 5:30. Dinner starts at 6:30, and you'll start speaking at 7. Now, John Holman, why don't you have a guest pull a ticket? We had the 50-50. I think there's what, $40 in there?
2 sawbucks. Okay, who's let's see. They can't hear me?
No.
Can't hear me. Now you can hear me. Can't touch that. Okay. Are you ready? 1, 8, 4, 7, 6, 4, 2. Close, huh?
642.
Come on. Someone's got this ticket.
642.
There are a couple left early.
1847642.
Any name on the back?
1847642. Did you get it? All righty. See how much money you made today? There you go.
Again, I want to thank everybody for coming. Don't forget, Phyllis is going to say a brief word about the caucus here in Washoe County. But please stay, circulate, network. A lot of you are new to the meeting. We hope you enjoyed it. And of course, we'd love you to join the men's club, which, like I said, 40-50% are the ladies. John Holman, as soon as I think he had to, well, anyway, he'll be back. You can sign up. It's only half price because we start membership all over again in January.
Ray, and remember, sponsorship is $75, and it goes 100% to youth education and training, and it allows more kids to come in and watch the next dinner. So sponsors are welcome too.
I just wanted to let you know that I did put a piece of paper on the tables. It is a brief summary of the history of the caucus in Nevada. If you want a more extensive history, you can go on the Secretary of State site, and on that one, it gives all the NRS related verbiage regarding the caucus. I just want you guys to get educated and be ready for February 23rd to come out to the caucus. It's going to take a lot of logistics, especially if we decide to have a longer time for voting and then for precinct meetings. It's a 2-part thing. You vote for your presidential preference, and you get involved with your precinct, electing delegates to the convention, nominating people for the Central Committee. It's quite a good time to get together with your neighbors. So I hope to see you all there. And I just wanted to thank Dustin. I actually got to ride on the Tea Party Express bus with Sharon Angle and with all the ones that were participating. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I have to say, I was proud to be in Searchlight.
Thank you. And with that, the meeting is officially over, but please stay. Network. Greg Bailor left some of his cards up here on the podium. And again, John will be right back. Maybe Eugene, if somebody wants to join, there he is. John's back. If you'd like to join, associates are only $10. Voting members are $17.50. So you're welcome to join. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next month.
And the mics will be live for 3 to 5 minutes.
And by the way, the mic will be live for 3 to 5 minutes.
How's everything going? All right, hit the road.
Yours. Sorry. No, no, no. It wasn't. People
Thank you for helping.
So how's Billy doing today? She feeling better?
Oh, we need this. I need to have this thing. Yeah. Well, the other thing is, you know, I was looking at, I brought you into that last night. No. I brought catering because I can.
I'm against.
Well, what it's going to be is that you can vote, they just county can choose their own start. Clark County is starting at 7.
One day at a time.
So you're gonna have 10 hours.
I'm getting
Which is why you want to have probably more concentrated locations. You use high schools, fewer high schools. But then it's going to be open at the same time. So there's a logistical issue that has to be dealt with. But you know, that's what they're talking about. Well, actually, you can't use the high schools. Well, you can. Part of the problem is high schools. So they're really talking about using so this is things people. But basically what's going to do is it's a party run thing. Although it's probably take ballots. The way it works is currently is you come in and we started in Western County, you get out of the school, sign in, cast a ballot, and then the precinct meeting held. Those ballots are in the precinct. And you can also, if you vote at the precinct, vote at the precinct. But see, we have to have. No, because you have to sign in.
Oh, is that?
You have to sign in on the registration. You already signed there.
Did you ever get a speaker?
That's the idea. Although they're actually talking about Clark County.
So I'm thinking men's club next Wednesday.
No, and that would be the thing, is that that's why they.
And we have a Christmas party coming up.
But the thing is too, is if you vote, say at 1 o'clock, don't come back to the precinct meeting, then you don't choose delegates to the county convention. So you have to go back, so the thing is, you can go twice, or you can just go to the precinct. People who are going to either vote, be on the central committee of the county convention, just go to the precinct, vote there, and also, but if you don't want to be, there's a lot of people who don't want to be part of the precinct meeting and do the county, the central committee, county convention, but they want to vote. You can go at 2 o'clock. So it's so it's
they are just.
And that's the idea, so enough people. Yeah, but the only thing was too, is we couldn't make it uniform to start to end times, because Lion County says, hey, we're gonna be lucky to have 2 people. We're gonna have 2 locations, and so we just want to do it. Now Elko wants even more flexibility, because Lion have people who are doing it as well. So it's basically what everybody by nothing. There is, so it's health program, whatever, vote. If the county opts to, the county must opt. We choose the times. But that's.
Joey?
Rules have to be adopted.
Yeah, just like.
I'll talk to you, Gary. Okay, sounds good.